I've had one company and it folded, but I can consult you on how to make a company that folds. So I'm not going to do that.
Welcome everybody to another Outside Crowd podcast, and we're here with the usual crowd. We got Ryan,
Yo,
Billy.
hello.
You all sound very enthusiastic today.
Yeah,
That's good to hear.
come
Absolutely,
on.
yeah. Tuesday this week, come on.
It's a lovely sunny day, so we're thinking about the future today and what that may mean for your company. So, where are you going to take it? What that means? What it means in like sort of progression, not just for your staff, but more for you guys as for business owners, where you think you can take your company and at what point do you think you need to transition or to move into the next stage of your business. So where do we go? I suppose the first thing, throwing it out, have you firstly got an idea of where you think your company is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, well, I have an idea of where I'd like it to be, and obviously making plans to get it there is what is going on at the moment, and that takes a lot of thought, because there's what you would like, and then there's what's achievable, and I think that's quite important, because I think, especially with things like, when we're doing our Plan V Actual, I sometimes have the proclivity to over egg the pudding. And then sometimes your results can be a bit disappointing when you look back at that. But realistic growth is quite important. But yeah, in terms of where I want it to go, I obviously have like a financial goal. But in terms of what we're doing, I think I'd like to increase the scope of work that we have. I'm very, we've spoken about this before, but I'm very aware that tree surgery is quite seasonal. It's not 50-50. There's a point in time where we're not as busy as we should do. It's not to say that we don't have any work, but it's it gets pretty tight at some points.
Yeah.
And so because of that, and especially because our company's slightly bigger than it was the previous years before. We've got more people, more equipment, more finance, more just general costs. Being not as busy this year has really made me reflect on how I stop that from happening.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I think is increasing the scope of work that we have. That I'd love in the next 3 to 5 years for us to be like a multidisciplinary company. That has lots of different things that we're involved in. So tree surveys and consultancy. At the moment, we have someone who comes in and does that for us. And having a chat with him, I've since been able to find out that the qualification that I have means I can do a PTI course, which is a professional tree inspector, which means there's a few other little catch-up courses that I would have to do just so I know I'd pass it, but it does mean that I don't have to go to university. I can actually just do that course, and then I'm legally trained to undertake tree surveys, and they're things I can do on my own. Mm-hmm. And then also I can get other people qualified to do that in business as well. But it increases everything. So you're doing the surveys, that increases the amount of businesses that would use you.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because I think that also, it does put you into a bit more of a realm of working with other businesses like developers. They need surveys done legally before, so you have to have environmental, ecological, and arboricultural surveys. And anyone who has the public within their business. So
that does open a few doors, having just that.
So like if there's schools, they need to have surveys done, because if there's a dangerous tree, it fell down and hit someone on the head one day, they're going to be liable because they didn't have their tree surveyed. So it means I can do that. We can then quote to do the work as well.
Yeah.
And then we can be undertaking the work that comes out of it. But also we could be subbing for other companies that would be doing the work, and we'd be doing the survey in front of it. Yeah. And it's just a really good source of income. I've realised that you can actually charge quite a lot of money for these surveys. And the cost of that is so much lower than undertaking tree work. I mean, it's literally just once I've bought the equipment, you might want a resistor graph. There's different bits of equipment that you need, and there's there's software that you need as well. Well, not necessarily need. I mean, people have done it for years without software, but there's really advanced software that you can use now, which is integrated with AI, which can pretty much make a survey there on the spot or the guide to one. So the chap that we use, I was following him, just shadowing him on a survey last weekend, and it was just so clever. He's just like, he's got his measuring equipment, so height of the tree, span of the tree, then he's putting in the location of it, species, everything like that, and then age, and all the details. And then basically it asks you a series of questions, you fill in the questions, and then it gives you like a traffic light system of how dangerous the tree is, or the risk of it. So it's all like risk mitigation. So you can then go straight to your customer and say, your survey will be with you in a few weeks, but from what I've seen, the tree is fine. To be outside and be underneath it. There's always a risk with that like, you want to be advising people that it's safe while you're in still weather, but if it's, inclement weather, then you don't want to be anywhere, you don't want to be near it. You shouldn't be near trees anyway if it's really bad weather, really. Like the tree that we looked at was in a nursery school. I wouldn't have kids. There's a massive great pine in the garden bit, and it's a very small garden, so the whole canopy of the tree is pretty much taking over you wouldn't have kids out there if it's blowing an absolute hoolie. You just wouldn't do that. So it's like, the tree's fine. Yeah, the hoolie, that was my score. It's coming in now. So like, you've got very clever, software like that. But once you've bought the equipment, I'm not having to. The wear on them is minimal. You're not. You don't have to be replacing unless new stuff comes out. Recently afterwards, but you're not having to replace it all the time. Like trucks break down all the time, chainsaws break down all the time. We need new equipment to do stuff. New uniform gets broken, new chains, whatever. There's a constant cost for that. And this stuff is low cost. The qualification itself is low cost, and it's something that I could be making pretty good money off straight away. And then if you get a team of surveyors out, then So I think, over the next 3 to 5 years, that for myself personally, there's a few things like that. PTI course. I've also signed up to an AI course.
Wow, wicked.
Yeah, there's a chap who I heard on another podcast, and we've been exchanging a few messages, and he does like a introduction to AI course and how you can integrate that in your business.
Oh, wow, wicked.
So I assume that's that's lots of things. That's all the paperwork that we already do. Like, how can we make it more efficient using AI? Writing articles, whatever, writing website content, that sort of stuff, marketing campaigns, and how you can use AI, because we're men that work with our hands, and I think if we can, any help we can get using a computer is amazing. Because sometimes like the time it would take me to write an article, but if you can have if you can have a bit of software that it's not writing the article for you, but it's giving you a good idea about what you can do. It's just like helping you with lots of things like that, which I think is really good. So over the next 3 to 5 years, a bit more education for myself, becoming a bit more of a multidiscipline company. So whether that's surveying, I'd like to get involved with horticulture a bit more. Garden, not necessarily garden design, but garden maintenance. I think that's really good, because these companies, if you're working in the garden, there's quite potentially trees in the garden, then you can get involved in that, and they're just crossing over each other all the time, and then looking at other things as well, which I need to think about more, which would be to overcome our dip in workload. I think garden maintenance would be a pretty good one for that, but there is also a dip in workload for garden maintenance, which is in the winter. So then what else would you be doing, which is keeping in good money for that time? Tree surgery is pretty good in the winter, but I just think if you can offer more services, then why not? Also things like there's machinery that you'd use in, let's say you were doing land drainage, you can also be using those diggers, which will be used on arb sites or forestry or whatever it is.
That's it.
So there's lots of things like that. So
that's a pretty good plan. That's pretty good.
That's what I would say.
Fair play.
What about you, Ryan?
What about me? After Bill, I've got to think of something now. No, I basically
I haven't thought about it.
No,
all plan.
So recently, working the way we've been working, and what my role is, and what I'd like my role to be, it's been kind of carved out in front of me. I've ended up on the road, as it were, because it's taking myself. I've gone from being on site, being the man on the trowel, working on the sites as well as doing the quotations outside of that, and now going to the teams are now fantastic lads we've got, and they're able to carry out the works to the highest of standards, and I'm able to then go into the office and do the quotations. Now I'm doing that side of things has taken the love out of it for me. So making a plan of getting someone in to do the estimating while I have someone doing, like you said, using AI, writing articles. I've got someone in the office at the moment writing articles for us.
I thought that Moja thing you've got is mental.
Well, and that I was actually doing that with the estimator today. We went to a project and showed him how to use it, and what we get from it. And yeah, it's an amazing bit of kit. And I think as I've progressed, using these tools to make things easier, because time efficiency, and then suddenly I found myself, and it's very much only this week and last week, where I am checking up on the teams on the jobs. Anything on the site that needs to be talked about, the guys know I'm there. We can have a communication. I can keep things moving and think, right, while you're doing that, remember that needs to be done. Oh yeah, brilliant. It's really helped out being able to be in both places at once. Because when I left the office before, it was, there was no, if I left the office, it means the quotation stopped, and it meant that, nothing continued. But having it this way means the quotations can continue while, things are happening on site and things are changing, and I can manage to both things. And it's kind of brought me back to my love of teaching, teaching the lads and teaching them how to work and doing that side of it. It's like, that's what I really enjoy. So yeah, I think this year it would be, the next couple of years, it's getting more teams out, managing those teams and the estimating that's going on with the staff we've got, because we've got 3 people work in the office, and we've got I think six out on site, and then including myself. So we're getting to a point now where we're able to take on the work, do that efficiently.
How are you going to get more teams out?
How am I going to get more teams out?
Yeah.
Well, the workload we've got at the moment, because the quoting process has now been, like it doesn't stop and start.
Yeah.
It continues. Some more quotes have gone out, which more acceptance have come in, meaning then I can have a look at the forecast. I think, right, well, that's the workload coming in. Who do we need to hire? I've got an advert at the moment for landscapers to join the team.
Yeah. So you think having that person means more work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I guess the point is it has to.
Yeah.
As in, to have that other person there, we must have this many teams out. We must know what the bottom line is going to be by the end of the year, because a few of my team members have had a pay increase, and it's you work that out over the year. Suddenly your overheads go up by X, and it's like, right, that makes a change. We need another vehicle. Another vehicle needs to happen either this year, end of this year, or beginning of next. So it's about, if we do have people in the office doing, because I know a lot of landscapers do the work and quote and do this, do that. There's so much admin to do behind the scenes. A lot of people, clients especially, don't understand what goes into it, and what we have to have ready for the end of the year. And it's to run a company, it costs. And to do it right, that costs. It's knowing exactly where we are each month, and like you said, when it gets tight, that's when you've got to know your numbers. But
then it also moves you into a different sort of client bracket as well, doesn't it?
Right.
So you're not looking at the. You maybe get an odd little job every now and again, but you're looking at more substantial work.
Yep.
To be able to
and with that,
feed the team.
With that comes the communication. I know there's one of our clients that we're working with, and I believe the email thread is 60 emails. Different conversations about a project. So it's that took up so much of my time doing that. Communicating, keeping things moving, that things start to go from the wayside. It's like, hang on. This is what we need to do. So taking on the extra person in the office to do that is, yes, it's been a breath of fresh air, knowing that I can get back out on site in the manageable sense that I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take it from, like, do you have any sort of companies that you admire, or you think that's a good role model for us? Because I mean, when we started, like MBM, there was another company, Brewer Consulting, and we knew them. We did a lot of subby work with them, and they were a really nice company. They did a lot of expert witness work and blah blah. They're a nice size. The guy who ran it, Jeff Brewer, had a good profile in in Contract Journal, and used to write legal articles and things in there. And they were just like a really nice company. You thought, yeah, that's a nice size company. I like that size. They had about 15 consultants and people, high quality, working with good clients, working around the world, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that's a nice company to try and model yourself on.
Yeah.
Not to be exactly the same,
No, I know what you
but
mean.
to sort of think, yeah, that's a nice one to reach. Do you, either of you, had any sort of companies that you look to and think, yeah, that's a sort of nice type of company that I would like to be?
Yeah, I think although people say, like, comparison's a thief of joy and blah blah blah, and you shouldn't compare yourself to other companies. I think it's good. It's a good thing to look at companies that you aspire
definitely,
to.
Yeah,
Definitely. One thing I do is I like to actually, if you, it's really tempting, and it's a big thing in tree work, especially in England or the United Kingdom. There's a lot of dick measuring that goes on. There's a lot of like, who's got the biggest kit, who's got this, who's got that, and I've since, like,
You reckon?
Yeah, and I've since, you can, if you see a company that's rather impressive. Now, this used to happen to me a lot. You see all their trucks go by, and you're like, oh fuck's sake, I wish I was there, that sort of thing. But it's actually important to know, like, if you actually look into it and you ask about what people's financial situations are. They may have a big company, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're running it right. Because I've realised that you can have a big company with lots of equipment and lots of people, but it can be running at a loss and not making any money. And so it's, if you really want to look up to a company, it should be a company that affords a nice lifestyle for the director and the staff and people. Like for me, one thing I think is really important is when you see a company that has really good staff retention, like a company that where the employee base is old and they have new people who come in as well, because it just means, okay, it's obviously a nice place to work. And I know a few companies around here that are like that, and they've got a really good set of boys that have been there for a long time, and they have new people with apprenticeships and stuff like that. And yes, they've got nice branding, and yes, they've got nice contracts and stuff like that. But I do also know other companies that are running at a loss. But they've got lots of stuff. So I'm not going to name any names, but yes, there are companies that are much larger than mine. Well, not much larger than mine, but a fair, probably 4 times in terms of turnover, if not more. That looks, from the outside, looks like they have a nice lifestyle with nice company and things that I would like to be.
But I suppose the thing is it's not so much, it's like, you obviously, unless you work with some of those companies, scratching beneath the surface, you're not really going to be doing. But it's like, just to give you an idea and then to say, well, yeah, that looks quite good. I like the type of services they provide. I like the way they look after their staff. I like the type of clients that they work for. I like the way they innovate and they do different things that are a bit more progressive than a usual traditional company. I don't know. Are there companies that you sort of think, yeah, I like that. That looks good. I can take, because the idea is always to take ideas from other companies, isn't there, and bring them into your, to give you inspiration, really. Because
I think I see what you're saying, Bill, as well, and I think you're absolutely right. I've done the same. Looked at companies and then gone, I know we provide a better service or better end product or whatever. It's across the board. But I guess I might be a little bit biased here because he's my neighbour at Corkers. But Jack Kent and his boys, they're just a solid group, solid team. And I've always looked at them and thought, God, if I could, the team could be, us and the team could be as happy as they are working and who they work for. And I think that's absolutely right. Jack does that with the boys and looks after them. He's got a very good ethos, and I do tell you that's because out of everyone, it's I'm always saying it's such a lovely company, lovely company. The boys always say that when I see them, they're always like,
because you sort of, I always thought when we started our own company, it's like, well, where do you want to be? Because I was sort of like looking forward and trying to think, well, what are the big milestones? What do we want to get? So you want to get we wanted an office. So think, what's the stages of growth? So we want to get an office and we want to get an admin person. Then we wanted to have develop the client base so that we weren't working for just one-man band subcontractors. So we wanted to work for larger main contractors then we wanted to have, like a London office. We wanted to work overseas. Then we wanted to have turnover targets. We wanted to, we tried a few other things as well. We tried like doing a recruitment agency for a
Right.
bit as well, but that didn't really. It made a bit of money for a bit, but
Oh, well, you had your own recruitment agency. Did
Wow,
you? I didn't know
fair.
that.
yeah, but it was made. The reason it happened is because
Were
everyone.
you recruiting for quantity surveyors?
Yeah, well, it's anyone, quantity surveyors, project managers. Because basically, when we applied for, when we put an advert out for people,
Yeah.
and they sent their CVs in, we got all these like CVs, and we thought, well, we don't want most of these people, so what could we do with them? So we thought, well, we'd talk to them, the people, and say, no, would you be happy for us, if we can promote you to try and get work for you?
Yeah.
And so we set up a little
Wow.
recruitment agency, which it did all right, but in the end it fizzled out because the person who was running it left, and then we couldn't really be bothered to push it. But
Yeah.
the idea was it was like it was another string to the bow. But it was like trying different services, but we always had in mind various stages that we wanted to get to. And the type of company, we always sort of knew exactly what we wanted to be as a company.
Yeah.
Which was quite. I don't know whether that's because it's easier. I don't know, as a sort of consultancy, but it was. Yeah, we knew where we wanted to get to. So that's why I was wondering where you guys, because I was also knew my role. I didn't want to do the work.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted to run the company because I enjoyed that more than doing quantity surveying, which is pretty, claims work. And so that was a goal as well that you're working towards. And also,
Yeah,
I don't know how
think-
it works with you guys. If
I
you
think-
sort of think along that lines,
Yeah,
how many offices do you want?
Yeah.
All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose that I don't think about that stuff too much, or I probably should do. But it's like I think it's really easy, especially at this stage, to sort of just get completely sucked up with just the day-to-day running of stuff, which is obviously what we do, and then like even just like looking at this PTI course for me, like that's the first time I've thought about doing any sort of self-development in ages. Do you know what I mean? Like I think
This
you
week
think
I
you
was
really
the same
like it's
thing.
really important to step back and just think, okay, well, like for example, if my company folded, let's say we had a really whatever happened, I don't know,
No work or something.
no work, but for months,
Yeah, fair.
and I lost it, and we had to fold the company. If I was in a position where I need to go out and I need to earn money because I've got a place to pay for and whatever else, at the moment I'd have to go and be a tree surgeon. I'm not really qualified to do anything else. I mean, I could do a few other things. I can hardly consult someone and be like, for a business consultant, be like, well, I've had one company and it folded, but I can consult you on how to make a company that folds. So I'm not going to do that. But having that qualification, it means I could work for someone, doing tree surveys, or I could then move on to ecological surveys or whatever. It's a good foundation of something I could move on to. But more important, I mean, that's just like one example, but more importantly than that, I think self-development and looking at, investing in yourself is really important, because I think it's so easy to not, isn't it? You just think about where's the company going, and you end up just doing little bits and pieces and getting other people to do that for you, and then what do you end up
But it's
doing?
usually like your continuous professional development, isn't it? I mean, I know like when you're a quantity surveyor or like RICS chartered, and you had to go to do all these bloody CPD stuff, which it's a pain in the arse doing it, but sometimes you get involved on courses and things that you really enjoy. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I've got to fill out my hours and get something in there. But it does lead you into certain areas that you might really enjoy. And I'm thinking, you should spend that time on yourself to make sure that your skills are updated. You can work in different areas. You're not just sort of being left behind, because it's I think in the sort of world we were doing, like claims, there was you had to keep up with a lot of case law, because that would influence how you could present a case and how you could argue it back. So everyone was always talking, so many nerds, they're always talking about, well, have you heard about, Balfour Beatty and Chestermount and all these claims? And it was just like, nerd hell. But you had to do it, and you had to keep abreast of it. And I imagine that's the same with you guys, knowing about new techniques, how you install things in a different way, what's going to be more efficient, what new materials are out there.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's, I don't necessarily have to do it myself. I could employ someone else to do them for me, but I would, feel a bit remiss if I didn't know what a good tree survey looked like. I mean, we've
Yeah,
worked
nice.
along them, but I should know that on myself. And also, I'm out advising people every single day.
Yeah.
And if I have this qualification, then I will be able to advise them a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
I'll and also legally be able to
Yeah,
advise
that's
them.
what I was gonna say, 'cause
I
you've got to be
cover myself. I've
Yeah.
advised them legally. Realistically, anyone who goes out and advises people on something that is potentially dangerous and the biodynamics of it are quite unknown sometimes, then I should cover myself completely. And also, it's not just that. It's like if I can advise my staff and all new people that join. It's like today I had someone ring me and say, "Do you do apprenticeships?" And I said, "Well, at some point, but we're not doing any at the moment."
Oh, I'd love an apprentice.
Yeah, and I'd be like, it'd be great to be giving someone a really nice foundation of knowledge,
Yeah.
and I just think the more knowledge you have in the company, it's better.
Yeah.
So at some point, I don't want to be doing anything. Basically, I don't want to be doing. Basically, what I want is by the time I'm 40 to be able to go on holiday for half the year. And have fucking nothing to do with it. And whatever way I get there, I don't care.
Yeah, but
6 months at least. Maybe the occasional Skype call. You can call me maybe once a week when I've got a signal by the pool. But apart from that, I don't want to fucking hear it.
But what about, say, with you, Ron? You've always talked about training people.
I'll be putting Paul in for him, I'd say.
You've always talked about
Cleaning
training.
the pool.
Yes,
So,
yes.
would you see that as like an add-on to the company and having like a training and development side? Because that can be a very lucrative way of doing things. I remember saying there used to be a company called J.R. Knowles who always used to do. They were the go-to company for claims and dispute training at one point, and they made a whopping great name for themselves. A shed load of money, became a really big company just through doing claims seminars and claims training.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's probably not much out the way for landscape training, is there?
No, I don't. I am. Yes, I have always talked about I like teaching. I really enjoy it, and I think that's what the best thing about this move that I've done recently, being able to step back into having time to teach, and the guy. I've got the team standing in front of me. I've got the knowledge to do it, how to do it, and I'm the way. I'm not just telling them how to do it. I'm asking them. I'm asking their experience. Going right. I want it done like this, but why? Why wouldn't we do it the other way? And that teaching side of it. I don't think I'd be. I haven't looked into it, mind you, but I'd like to do something towards that. A course or something so I can teach. I think with the if I can get qualifications for teaching, that'd be great, because it's definitely an avenue that I've thought about and looked down. Just because I really enjoy it. It'd be really nice, like having an apprentice. I'd be keen. I think we spoke to a couple of colleges I think a year or so ago, and it didn't work out in the end at that time. I don't think we followed it up, but it'd be really. I'd be really keen to do that within our company also. But then having doing teachings maybe on a Saturday for the DIYers, the guys that just want to be able to do some bits in their garden themselves or know how to stick a slab down properly. It'd be nice to do.
There'd be a lot of demand for things like that.
I'd love
if
to
it's
do it.
set up in a way where you have like a training facility, you can take people through weekend courses to say laying a patio, I don't know, putting a bit of brickwork, stuff like that, because there's a lot of people who don't know how to do that stuff, who would like to know and don't want to have to enroll on like a bloody 2-year apprenticeship or something like that. They just want to know, give us some decent background. You spend, I don't know, 500 quid, 750 quid on like a weekend course or whatever it is, and someone can give you a bit of practical experience.
It's tricky that though, isn't it?
Well,
'Cause, I mean, I did landscaping
Solutions, not problems.
at
will you?
Hadlow, and I don't think I fucking learned anything.
But that's what I'm saying. The thing is that at
the weekend's not enough.
But okay.
Well,
but the thing is, at colleges, I've been to college myself, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying. Okay, I've done an apprenticeship myself. Let me put it that way. Okay, I'm a carpenter by trade. I went to college and did the apprenticeship, and I was at work and I was in college. Okay, and I'm not, I wasn't in the college, but it wasn't easy to get the information from them lot. And when you had a genuine conversation, it was like you lecturer would look up and go, do you know how many kids I've got to sort out this week, and I've just got you to get you to pass, and you're just like, this is not how I wanted my apprenticeship to be. I want, and the thing is, when you go to another country, if you go to different countries, they have different stages for their carpentry, and it's like, you know, things when I was out in New Zealand, the difference between the teaching or difference between the codes that we had to put in there to what we had, you know, what we did in the UK, it was, you know, it was very, very different. So, and that was only my experience with it. I don't know if it's changed. I don't know if it's the same, but I know that, you know, even was just talking about the teaching, even the apprenticeship stuff, or even the labourer course. You know, I wanted to have a course to be like, right, come for 6 weekends. You do a Saturday with me. To know how to be a labourer, because what happens is labourers get chucked down the road with some, you know, with a guy going, do this, mix that. They don't know what they're doing. They get shouted at, and suddenly he's teaching them the old ways, and you're just, you know, the guys young lads don't want to work, you know, don't want to work because they're getting treated like shit. And it's like, if they actually turned up with a shovel in their hand and went, yeah, I'm facing the wheelbarrow the right way today, you know, they might leave them alone and let them do the job.
Yeah,
you know?
but I mean, even so, I was thinking because that's very much sort of focusing on the, you know, the youngsters and bringing them through in a way that gets them into the industry.
Yeah,
I'm also thinking there's probably a demand, basically, for duffers like me who know bugger all about how to put a patio in.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you do.
Yeah.
But doing it
Different
and having
stuff.
the chance to practice somewhere. That's the
Yes.
sort of thing where you could have it like as a weekend type course where you
Yeah.
know someone you could say, okay, how do I mix up the right mix for doing my for my mortar? How do I lay a few bricks? How do I I don't want to go. I don't want to
fruit
be.
trees.
I don't want to be in there for bloody months. I just want to have
Yeah.
a quick.
But I think the thing for me is I'd have those things set out, like how to do an edger, you know, how to do your edging, you know, so you can do the edging yourself in the garden, how could, you know, things like that. But I think the ones that I'd focus on are things like concrete spur for your fence post.
Yeah.
Because how many fence
Yeah.
posts go over and it's suddenly now my place isn't secure. I've now got to get, you know, and it's like, well, if you were able to go, well, I've got my fence is, you know, at home it's bloody 10-year-old, it's grand, but there's a few places where, you know, I think in a couple of years' time it may, you know, we ended up putting the I don't know, blowing the leaves up against it and right one of the posts, whatever. It's like, how would I be able to fix that myself? I could show you how
Yeah.
to do that efficiently.
That would be really useful.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Would be
Yeah,
really
that'd
useful.
I'd
for
be
people
so
like,
keen to do that.
And I don't think there is, because if I wanted to know how to do that, I've either got to ask a mate, I've got to look on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it's hit and miss. And I would like, you know, like some practical experience without spending too much money
Yeah.
that can give me that outdoor sort of, you know, a bit of knowledge.
Yeah.
We're cracking on a bit with time, but just a quick fire round here with you guys. So if I said to you, each you in turn, 10 years' time, what percentage of your time will be spent working as opposed to not working?
Sorry, in how many years' time?
10.
10 years time. When you say not working,
Yeah, you're like tossing it off somewhere.
tossing it off somewhere.
Yeah, so either actually working in your company and as opposed to not working,
I
as
need
in
to be
relaxing. What do you reckon your percentage is going to be?
10 years time.
10 years' time.
I'll be 40.
But
Well, I'll probably still.
Be about that ball, wouldn't you?
What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be?
Just as long as I work, I'm happy to work 5 days a week. Yeah.
Doesn't sound very ambitious, does it? I thought-
No, because I like routine and stuff like that. Is really
dreaming.
Is really
Dream
Oh,
big,
I fuck
Bill.
it. I'm
What would you
wanking
like it to
anywhere,
be?
and I'm not
No,
working at all.
like realistically, like if you're thinking 10 years ahead, because we always did this, we thought, okay, 10 years' time, I want to be at this size and I want to be working about, I don't know, probably about
4 days.
60%, 3 days a week, and I want to have
Yeah.
2 days off so that I can go and do other things.
That would be lovely. Yeah, 60-70% would be great.
Ryan?
But also do know that I will fall to the wayside if I don't.
50%.
50%, you'd like to wind down.
50%.
How
Well,
many...
no, 50. But the reason 50% is because in 10
Sort of
years'
did that
time,
anyway,
I'd like to be. Oh, nice, good man. I'd like to. Yeah, hang on. This
Every
year,
time I call you're in
10
bed.
years. Yeah, good man.
This is not very quick fire, is it? It's supposed to be quick fire questions here.
Yeah,
call him at 10 o'clock in the morning,
50% because I'll be working on other things.
How many offices would you like your company to have?
I would like my office. I'd like to have 3 offices,
3 regional offices?
3 regional offices.
Okay.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Ryan, how would you like to have regional offices? How big a company
I'd
would
like just one big office.
you just like one big office that serves?
Mine will be in the Shard, probably. I reckon.
Okay. What car are you going to be driving?
Oof. I know exactly what we're driving.
an old 1989 Volvo 240.
Yeah, you know that. You know that. I'll be driving my Hilux because it'd be fine.
Oh God! I just want to. As long as I've got enough time to go travel around Asia and Africa and do all that stuff several times a year, I will be chuffed as anything.
Well, I think that's
and as long as I've got a 6-bedroom red brick home with a massive garden and Tamsin and Pascal are happily in a private school, I don't care. And that's all I want.
That's all. You're a simple man, aren't you? That's all I want. Simple tastes. Right, okay. So, I'll give up on the quickfire round move. Right, so that's it. So check out for Bill and Ryan in 10 years' time. You can see whether Ryan's got his RTW Landscape Training Academy. And Bill's trekking around Asia. So, on that note, I suppose thank you for everyone for listening. Keep listening. Any ideas, suggestions for topics, if you want to come on, give us a buzz, let us know, drop us a line. Keep listening. Goodbye from Ryan.
See you next time.
Goodbye from William.
Cheers, guys.
Great stuff. See you all next time on another Outside Crowd podcast.